The narrative begins with a general discussion about a mighty supernatural being known as Hachishika-sama, described as an 8-foot-tall woman who appears in the countryside wearing a long white dress. The horrifying yokai is supposed to kidnap her favorite child and is always preceded by her signature signal, Po. The ancient myth is being discussed by two bus travelers when one of them points at someone, wondering whether she is the mystical creature due to her appearance. Meanwhile, the towering lady secretly confirms being a Hachishika-sama, and she believes that the image of an erotic supernatural being is deeply rooted within the people's minds. According to her, spirits and ghosts are influenced by human beliefs, and they can alter their appearance and nature. The two stooges keep on belittling her by making lewd remarks at her. That degrading image of hers has weakened the dejected woman. Her strength has diminished, while her height has shrunk to a mere 6 feet 2. The poor woman doesn't even have the courage to confront those peevish kids. 6 feet 2? Some NBA scouts might still be interested, ghostly or not. Earlier, she had appealed to the humans so that her current defamatory image could be changed. They assured her that they would be broadcasting videos to spread her terror. She requested that they not use Sama with her name. In fact, it would be easier if they used her real name. She even clarifies that the lewdness associated with her species is incorrect. Plot twist: she just wanted to be called Ms. Hachi on LinkedIn. However, her plea had an inverse effect as people thought she was into some kind of cosplay and urged her to remove her mask. She even tried working part-time at a haunted house to re-establish her scary image, but when trying to scare off a couple, she accidentally got tangled in a cord, and when she tried to untangle herself, it got worse. The couple was disappointed because they thought they would get the fear factor, but instead they were presented with some cheesy display. Haunted house or haunted laundry day. Either way, sounds like a tangled mess. As a result, she got fired during the probationary period because she was affecting their reputation. Currently, she has come to see a horror movie in a theater to learn more about scary monsters. Because of her big stature, she decides to take the back seat to prevent herself from blocking others' views. The movie begins, and she begins to jolt in sheer panic. Note to self: never sit behind a ghost with an ego complex. She reminds herself that she is a real monster, so she shouldn't be scared of fictional ones. She focuses on the movie and tries to memorize all the techniques used in it to scare people. But as the movie goes on, she finds those tips too blood-chilling, which even makes her dizzy. Suddenly, she falls on the ground when the lightheadedness increases and dejectedly realizes that she failed again. Even monsters get scared of Monday mornings. She is fed up with the repeated failures she is facing, since no matter how hard she tries, nothing seems to work. Unexpectedly, someone behind her calls out for her attention. She instantly apologizes to him for being an obstacle in his way, but to her astonishment, the young man expresses his concern about her well-being. Turns out, the scariest thing in the theater was her falling over. He assumes that she has gotten injured by that fall. Hesitantly, she assures him that she's okay. In a frenzy, she tries to move away from blocking his way, but he insists that she should relax. She manages to get up and thank him for his kindness, because nothing says monster like worrying about blocking someone's view. As she slowly wobbles away, he watches her in awe since it has been ages since he has met someone taller than him, and it's a woman. Suddenly, he spots an umbrella lying on the ground and assumes that it probably belongs to her. He quickly fetches it and looks for her outside the theater, guessing that she might not have gotten far yet. Instantly, he finds her standing beside a vending machine, facing the wall. He quickly approaches her and questions her about the umbrella belonging to her. She pants heavily and accepts her umbrella with gratitude. Meanwhile, he punches some buttons on the vending machine, and a bottle of water comes out, which he offers to her since she appears frail. Hydration is key, even for terrifying yokai. She accepts the bottle and rummages in her purse to pay him, but he refuses to accept any money for that. She tries to protest, but a bout of dizziness takes the better of her, and she quickly gulps down the water. She apologizes for her clumsiness but assures him that now she feels a little better. Payment declined, but smiles are accepted. He advises her to take some rest at home, but she insists that she is fine. She reveals that she got somewhat drained by the movie. He stares at her blankly, but then consoles her that getting sick is unavoidable, and he completely understands her situation since he has gone through it. Guy's life advice: if the movie scares you, just blame the popcorn. The young man was planning to leave after giving her water, but then is concerned whether she would be able to reach home safely. The Hachisha Kusama is perplexed about his casual statement of getting used to being sick and wonders whether that can actually happen. The confused young man is unable to respond, so when she expresses her wish to rewatch the horror movie, he is shocked. She apprehensively explains that she was working part-time in a haunted house, but failed miserably to be impressive. For this reason, she decided to watch horror movies. Practice makes perfect, or at least less embarrassing. He is awestruck and assumes that the lady is afraid of getting sacked if she isn't better. He is curious about her job in the haunted house. She reveals that she is playing the role of a monster called Hachisha Kusama. When your side hustle is scaring people, but you're scared of losing it. He is startled to learn that, and she jitterily squeezes the water bottle towards her chest. She is certain that he might be thinking of her as some perverted supernatural being like everyone else, so she sheepishly admits that her character is famous for being somewhat indecent. Nothing says monster like a bad reputation on social media. To her amazement, he strongly protests that it is not an indecent character. He puts his phone forward for evidence and explains that, despite having an odd image, if one searches for scary Hachisha Kusama, then one will find the original ghost story. Hoogle, the ultimate ghostbuster. She embarrassingly apologizes to him, claiming that even she is aware of that. She frantically reasons that she thought it would be easier to sketch the outline if she exactly portrays her current image. She exclaims that she is desperate enough to do something about that part-time job. The lad realizes that he was a little harsh. He admits that generally he likes the horror genre, but has a special interest in the Hachisha Kusama saga. He reveals that he read that as a kid and found it terrifying. Childhood trauma, sponsored by Scary Yokai. She expresses her curiosity about what he actually liked in it. For the response, he presents a long list of praises, ranging from her enormous size, super strength, and simple yet elegant attire. The tall lady is immensely impressed. Who knew yokai fashion was so on point? He confesses that he cannot wipe out that weird image of hers from his mind. The astonished lady expresses her gratitude. He goes overboard by calling her the Madonna of ghost stories and the Queen. Next thing you know, she'll be dropping an album called Ghostly Grooves. She points out his exaggeration in calling her a queen or a goddess, but he goes on by terming Hachisha Kusama his favorite female yokai. The troubled lady closes her eyes in exasperation. Thankfully, he realizes that he has been yapping a lot, so he turns around only to find the lady grown twice his size. She abashedly protests that it's too much praise. She wonders why he appears so startled, but then realizes that this might be because he has shrunk too much. They stare at each other awkwardly for a moment, and finally it dawns on her that she is bigger. Alarmed, she wonders what actually happened. At that moment, she accidentally trips on something and then falls on him, nearly flattening him with her overwhelming weight. When your monster problems turn into monster accidents, she anxiously queries him about getting hurt, but he exasperatedly begs her to get off him. A passerby is dead certain that the girl in white was just enormous. Another person agrees that she is definitely very tall, but the first insists she was huge, then pauses, reconsidering, and admits she might have been imagining things. It appears that the Hachisha Kusama has shrunk again. She recalls that this has never happened to her, not even once, since her powers began to decline. She stares at him curiously, wondering whether that happened because of him. Maybe he's the new Ghostbuster, or Shrink Master. Meanwhile, a shocked lad gazes at her in disbelief and then whispers whether she is actually a Hachisha Kusama. Instantly, he shrugs off that thought in a frenzy, blaming the overwhelming number of books and movies he had gone through. He firmly reprimands himself for losing control at 19. Hesitantly, she asks him about his current availability. Once seated at a small cafe, the young lad confirms her thoughts about yokai being influenced by human perception, resulting in her weakening. He even learns that no matter how hard she tried to wipe out that image, but with no luck, however, for some unknown reason she gained her strength momentarily. Maybe she just needed a good Yelp review to recharge. She apprehensively confesses to lying to him about that part-time job, which she has sadly lost. He sympathizes with her, and when he addresses her as Hachisha Kusama, she politely requests him to call her Yachiru instead. The lad introduces himself as Seichiro Kiri and inquires about the reason for her invitation. She requests that he help her solve the mystery of her growing so huge so suddenly. Plot twist. It's not magic, it's gluten intolerance. She elaborates that she got her strength for the first time in ages. She believes that he might have his reasons, but if she could figure out the specifics, then her strength might stabilize, her confidence would revive, and in this way, she would be a proper yokai then. Quite modestly, she seeks his assistance. He readily agrees to help since even he doesn't approve of the way people see Hachishek-kusama. Finally, someone who wants to fix a ghost's PR instead of calling an exorcist. He assures her of his availability due to summer vacations. Yachiru is overwhelmed with relief and insists that he must accept a token of appreciation from her, but he refuses, stating that just being able to experience helping a yokai in the summer by chance is more than enough. Suddenly, it occurs to him that if her powers are revived, then she would begin kidnapping again, which isn't right. She abruptly stands up, slamming the glass placed in front of her, claiming that it is a myth. When someone says you're a kidnapper and you're just trying to order a latte, the chilled drink spills on the table to her distress. Instantly, a waitress arrives on hearing the chaos, but Seiichiro assures her that the damage is negligible. He apologizes to Yachiru for being absurdly blunt, but he clarifies that he just wanted to check. He states that she seems quite different from the image of a Hachishek-kusama he had in his mind. She's spooky, yes, but more "oops, I tripped" than "I'll steal your child." She sighs, thinking that everyone, including this guy, has an image of her in their minds. She is aware that the humans didn't consider her a cheesy monster from the beginning, and even some consider her a truly ruthless yokai. Usually, people don't take her seriously, and even at the part-time job, she was hired because of her appealing personality that perfectly fit the role of a Hachishek-kusama. But it turns out she was wrong, and her real problem has nothing to do with her image. That moment when even monsters face imposter syndrome, her self-esteem goes into a pit as she realizes that she is of no good and apologizes to him warmly for having high expectations of her. He explains that he didn't want to hurt her feelings, and until now he has found her quite harmless. He heartily apologizes for passing such an insensitive remark. When she still appears dejected, he points out how cool she is for taking so much initiative to solve her problem. Therapy session, but make it yokai size. He admits that if he had to work in a haunted house, he would have hesitated. Also, she dared to watch the movie twice, which she didn't like. He even mentions how she sought his assistance just to be normalized again, even though they had just met. He encourages her to stay tall and be proud of herself. Moral of the story: never apologize for being the tallest girl in the room. He tells her how strong and hardworking she is. His influential speech brings tears to her eyes. He softly blurts out that since she had already tried so many things, she might have found a clue right after meeting him. Instantly, he realizes what an airbag he is and apologizes. Someone give this guy a medal for Most Accidental Therapist 2025. She wipes off her tears and reveals that whenever he praises her, her body tingles, and he had felt like that during her growth spurt. Suddenly, it occurs to him that if she is influenced by her image, then his strong belief in Hachishek-kusama also has an influence. He realizes that probably his praising words restored her powers. He decides to check his freshly created hypothesis and opts to shower her with unlimited praise. Science, now powered by compliments and awkward crushes. When she appears doubtful, he assures her that he can go on like this for ages. It is revealed that although she became normal for the first time, she became tingly very soon for the second time. In no time, Yachiru grows unbelievably gigantic, so huge that even the chair she is sitting on creaks miserably. This experiment brought to you by Praise Inflation. She blushes anxiously as her front buttons pop out one by one. She cautiously points out that this is probably not the right place for experimentation. As she covers her front, she shrinks back to her normal size again. Wardrobe malfunction level, yokai rated. She is thoroughly relieved as her brief transformation goes unnoticed, with minimal damage, and thankfully, her shoes are intact as well. Out of chivalry, he offers her his jacket, which she accepts graciously. He apologizes to her for being reckless and assures her that next time he will check the surroundings first. Lesson learned: praise in private, shrink in peace. She expresses her gratitude for seeing her differently, unlike others. She wishes to return his feelings of love and respect like the true Hachishek-kusama, so they part, exchanging pleasantries. The following night, Seiichiro tosses and turns insanely, thinking about Yachiru. When the monster girl makes you question your type. He had read the ghost story of an 8-foot-tall woman in his childhood, and although he found it quite terrifying, he developed an obsession with women taller than him. He is anxious that the thought should scare him, but somehow he has this enigmatic feeling. In junior high, he had a towering appearance and didn't meet any girl taller than him. The guy was in a fix since no girl attracted him who didn't fit his ideals. However, if he develops intimate feelings for Yachiru, then she might become weaker than she already is. He makes up his mind to avoid those thoughts that might further tarnish her image. Also, he doesn't want to break her trust. The past moments and her appearance flash before him, but he vows that he will never see her in a corrupt way. Despite his promise, he tossed and turned all night, unable to rest. This is either love or indigestion from ghost-themed popcorn. The next day, he receives a call from Yachiru, thanking him for the other day. She expresses her gratitude for paying heed to her very bizarre request, but he assures her that he really wants to help her out. He can literally imagine her bowing on the other side of the phone, depicting her immense politeness. Next, he suggests going to a secluded place for her growth experimentation. When your science project is a yokai and your lab is just wherever people aren't. When she affirms, he suggests going to a karaoke room, but she points out that they have surveillance cameras. He wonders about a place where a man and woman can get non-intimate privacy. Although nothing is going on between them, he still feels that it is better to be cautious. Yachiru suggests coming to his place. This is how horror stories don't start, with mutual respect and calendar coordination. The guy screams as if hit by an electric shock, completely startling her, and she realizes that he is quite energetic. She nervously thinks he's worried his parents won't approve, but she doesn't want to bother him by asking him to visit her. A terrified Seiichiro looks here and there, but she elaborates that although she lives alone, her place is quite small. She gives up as she is out of suggestions. Ghost Lady has a tiny apartment. Rent in Tokyo spares no one, not even the undead. He looks around thoughtfully and imagines himself with her in his room. In a frenzy, he shouts, "Manga cafe," and the poor girl flinches in terror. He suggests a manga cafe, where there is a private, spacious room with no cameras. Also, it's affordable for a couple of hours. Yachiru instantly agrees. Seiichiro analyzes that although the size of a manga cafe room isn't much different from his own, at least there will be some mental peace. Peace is relative when you're expecting your guests to outgrow the ceiling. They decide on the meet-up time and hang up. The next day, Yachiru has reached the cafe first, so Seiichiro tells her to go in first, since he will be 10 minutes late due to the late arrival of the train. She mentions that she has taken room 108. When he reaches the cafe, he shows his ID card at the reception, and then wonders whether Yachiru has an ID as well. Do yokai use driver's licenses or just ancient scrolls? He recalls that she even owns a smartphone and is curious how yokai can handle such matters. It keeps occurring to him that if she had visited his place, it wouldn't have been troublesome, but then he tells himself to get a grip, since he is a little conscious being all alone in a room with her. He has this weird feeling that he is forgetting something. Thankfully, he finds the room and announces his arrival to her while tapping on it. Spoiler, he forgot how clothes work in transformation scenes. When she affirms, he opens it only to be struck with a 10,000-volt lightning bolt. Both Yachiru and Seiichiro scream in embarrassment on seeing each other. He quickly storms out and then slams the door shut behind him. Congratulations, you've unlocked the rare accidental fan service ending. Numb with shame, he is unable to make any remark. She pleadingly explains that her zipper got stuck and she fell. She desperately tries to convince him that she isn't some kind of showgirl. He urges her to close the door and put on some clothes. When your yokai roommate becomes a one-woman wardrobe crisis, she clarifies that she thought she would be done before he came. She slowly reveals that she is afraid that it would tear off once she grows in size. He holds his head in disbelief, realizing his own folly about ignoring the clothes issue. Turns out, physics doesn't care about supernatural modesty. He now understands why she handled the issue so extravagantly. He confirms with her that now she will only be wearing an oversized hoodie. She affirms, and in no time, she opens the door, indicating that she is ready. But the poor lad is disturbingly aware that she is not wearing anything underneath. He prayed for ghost stories. What he got was ghosts. The pajama edition. He looks here and there in a frenzy, and she anxiously wonders whether he is not planning to come in. He avoids her gaze and proclaims that since he is not aware of the yokai standards, whether she is comfortable with him in this questionable attire. He points at the modest-sized room and proposes that if she is uncomfortable, then they should stop the meeting. Consent first, yokai growth experiment second. He's got priorities. He nervously elaborates that if she is concerned about how humans perceive her, that she must avoid him as well. He blurts out that he doesn't want to see Hachishika-sama as a lewd object. She lets out a dazzling smile and assures him of her trust in him. She believes that he can never think absurdly about her. Little does she know, his brain is 90% fight or fluster. She makes herself comfortable and invites him in without wasting further time. Deep down, she is very much stressed being alone with a guy and dressed questionably. However, she is aware that things would have been worse had she visited his place. Still, she is overwhelmed by the compactness of the room. Then she decides to take a grip of herself, since at least he is helping her out. If IKEA sold emotional space, they'd both be in line right now. One thing she knows is that she cannot do anything about those expensive undies. Suddenly, she remembers something and hands him a bag. She thanks him for lending her his jacket the other day. She tries to appear cheerful and confident, since she doesn't want to make him feel uncomfortable around her. Fun fact: jackets lent during monster-induced panic are dry clean only. He is surprised that she has gone through the trouble of ironing it before returning. To his bewilderment, she hysterically expresses her sheer gratitude to him for coming and promises that she will cooperate to revitalize her powers. Seiichiro is impressed by her soaring motivation level. Even he relaxes a little seeing her so excited. Her energy's up, his blood pressure still recovering from earlier. Next, he asks her to elaborate more about her yokai powers before they weaken. He believes that it will be easier to praise her once he knows her true nature, and also he will get an idea about why praising makes her heighten. He mentions that her size-changing phenomenon is different from all the ghost stories he has heard. She reveals that originally, she was able to change her size according to her free will. Imagine if resizing yourself was as easy as resizing a profile pic. Whenever she was out of sight, she would transform into her original 8-foot height, and she used her ability to gel in with the humans. But now she doesn't need to use her abilities, which is great, unless she's trying to reach the top shelf at the supermarket. She squirms in panic when he gets close to her, but then he questions her about whether she can get bigger than 8 feet. She explains that 6 feet 3 inches is the smallest she can shrink to, and she's already at that height. When he asks if she can go any smaller, she quickly says no. If she does, it might be hard to return to normal. Once, she even got stuck that way. She believes that she is already tiny and pathetic. Tiny? Girl, you're taller than 99% of Japan, and at least one Godzilla. An amused Seiichiro decides to give up on that. Still, he praises her for being able to adapt to human society. She makes another interesting revelation that her clothes are part of her as they expand and contract according to her body size. Seiichiro is exhilarated on hearing her intriguing story, as that is superb to kill time. Stretchy magical clothes? Eat your heart out, Uniqlo. But she dejectedly points out that now she is unable to use that ability. He cheers her up that she will be able to get the hang of it soon and will be able to grow again. Excitedly, he notices a sudden growth spurt in her. The ballooning is so rapid that in no time, the room becomes too stuffy for her size. Local boy accidentally reenacts Attack on Titan in a manga cafe. Seiichiro decides to move towards the edge and encourages her to take all the space she wants. He is impressed by how amazingly she is handling the situation and expresses it openly. She keeps on growing like the beanstalk and decides to change positions since it is getting cramped. He tries to remain composed until he is leg-locked against the wall by her gigantic limbs. Humiliated to the core, she apologizes to him for being immobile. As her body grows in size, her clothes become skimpier, and she desperately tries to cover her lower part as her legs spread out helplessly. A terror-struck Seiichiro turns around, insanely pinned to the door, and he hysterically decides to halt the experimentation. But she insists loudly that they must continue as she wants to check whether she stays enormous if he keeps on praising her. In her defense, scientific method says repeat the test. In his defense, he's dying inside. She believes that since she has gone this far, she cannot turn back. A flustered Seiichiro is covered with sweat, but he feels that if she is okay, then he is okay as well. Still, he cannot help but praise her increased motivation level. He encourages her to grow since bigger is stronger, and she will become a mighty yokai. She expresses her gratitude and requests to have both of his hands. A stunned Seiichiro turns around and stares at her inquisitively. Instantly, she grabs his hands and stares at him abnormally, challenging him to escape from her clutches. She tightens her grip, and he realizes that he has actually turned numb. When your crush is affectionate and also has the grip strength of a car crusher, He is embarrassed about that sudden emotional surge and attempts to compose himself. Unexpectedly, he notices that her hands are shaking. Even he feels that something is odd. Plot twist: the monster is emotions, and also maybe nerve damage. In the next instant she begins to shrink, and then loses her balance. Meanwhile, he tilts himself further like a doofus for a closer look. She lets out a deafening wail in disappointment, while he frantically tries to release his hands from hers. But eventually she falls on the ground with a sickening thud, taking him over her. An embarrassed Seiichiro cannot believe why such cringeworthy scenes are happening repeatedly that day. Still, he wonders about her well-being and whether she has suffered a head injury, but then realizes that he should get off her to let her breathe and think clearly. There is a momentary silence as their gazes meet awkwardly. She abruptly gets up, trying to appear perky and wondering about his well-being. He blankly assures her that he is fine as well. She analyzes that this time it took her longer to shrink back than before, which shows that her powers can be maintained if praise, self-esteem powers, officially more unstable than nuclear fission. She expresses her desire to try other things as well, animatedly, but he advises her to stop there that day and consider other methods. When she appears confused, he points out that, firstly, she worked amazingly hard, which is also one of her qualities. He elaborates that if she neglects herself, then she will be exhausted, and that achieving one's goals doesn't mean burning oneself out. Today's lesson: even supernatural spirits need work-life balance. He admits his mistake in deciding to go forward quickly, yet Chiru's mind is stuck on the fact that she is neglecting herself. He looks at her hesitantly, and then reasons why she shouldn't be with a man all alone in a closed room. She consciously pulls the hoodie over her chest. Public service announcement. Hoodie doesn't mean a consent form. She assures him that she trusts him completely and wonders whether she has been acting bizarrely. She is about to burst into tears, thinking that despite being so cautious, she ended up doing something rude. He anxiously consoles her and reveals that he will be more comfortable if she talks about her inner feelings to him, and insists that she must tell him when something is not okay. Communication is key, especially when one of you might accidentally demolish the room. He honestly pours out that even he is deeply troubled by the situation. He hesitantly blurts out that it is kinda awkward for him to be alone with a woman not wearing an undie, even if she is a yokai. She abashedly apologizes to him for being selfish and causing him trouble unconsciously, and suggests finding a comfortable way for both. At this point, even the ghosts in the walls are like, "Should we leave?" He requests that she slow down and explains that he didn't express himself just to make her self-conscious. He mentions that he poured out his heart to her just because he knew she would listen to his concerns. He wonders how she sees him, actually, and that does he appear like a spoilsport who would throw tantrums if she complains. Yet Chiru shakes her head rapidly. Tantrums? No. Anxiety-fueled flailing? Maybe. She nervously mentions that even though she trusts him completely, she is terrified of being in such situations with a man, and how she wishes the room were a little spacious. He agrees that they must look for another option. He thanks her and decides to give her some privacy so that she can change. Room size: 4 square meters. Emotional baggage: immeasurable. Later, while waiting outside, he cannot believe that she was actually terrified, and vows that from now onwards, he will make sure she doesn't experience anything unpleasant. Later, when she is done changing, she points out the Manga Cafe's all-you-can-eat soft ice cream machine that she saw while coming in. She describes it, having a lot of flavors, and is self-service. Nothing says, "We survived an emotional crisis," like 6 cones of matcha swirl. He encourages her to try it out, but she wants both of them to have it and then hit home. She insists that she doesn't mind having it with him in the room and wants to have some more chit-chat with him while they eat. He happily agrees. Unfortunately, the machine breaks down and the ice cream won't stop coming out. A panic-stricken Seiichiro decides to fetch the staff. Final boss of the day: ice cream tsunami. Another day, both Seiichiro and Yachiiro set out to go somewhere. They are supposed to visit his friend's house, which is a 10-minute walk from their current location. Seiichiro's friends have offered her one of the spare rooms to rent out. It appears that the room is 5 times larger compared to the one in the Manga Cafe. 5 times the size, 0% chance of accidental thigh choke. He informs her that his friends are siblings who live together and are usually introverted. He believes that this will make things easier for them now. Still, he encourages her to share any issues she has. Yachiru expresses her gratitude for his kindness and is also thankful to his friends, who have offered her a place without going into details. He agrees that they are certainly very nice friends, introverts, silent, but room generous. She highlights with a smile that good people are always surrounded by good people. He modestly responds that he is just a normal person. Somehow, Yachiro notices that something is off about him, and he seems a little preoccupied. She recalls how the discussion at the Manga cafe got a little quirky, and although he didn't seem upset, but a little cautious. Quirky? Girl, you drop-kicked a room with your thighs. She recalls how he has been supporting her all along. Soon, they reach near a tall building, and he points out that this is their destination. Once inside the elevator, he cautiously warns her that she should be careful around them since they are still unaware of her yokai nature. She assures him with a smile that she won't be a cause of any trouble since she has adapted well to human society. Step 1. Hide demonic origins. Step 2. Don't eat the neighbors. He sullenly agrees, and then suddenly inquires about her ID. When she appears perplexed, he reminds her that they had to show it at the Manga cafe reception. She reveals that she used her powers at that time, but those are strictly confidential. He thoughtfully exclaims that it adds another element to the mystery. Yokai ID, now with forged holograms and suspiciously perfect kanji. She expresses her awe at the tall and stylish building where his friends reside. He reveals that he bought an apartment as soon as he started working and lives just 2 steps away. An awestruck Yachiru expresses curiosity about the nature of his friend's work. 2 steps away, the introvert's ideal social distance. At first, he is taken aback by the question, but then stammers nervously that he doesn't like to talk about it publicly. She immediately retracts the question, apologizes for being blunt, and assures him she won't bring it up again. Seiichiro smiles in relief. A few days ago, Seiichiro is working on a risque drawing when someone calls out to him. The bespectacled person stretches and suggests he take a break, reminding him that fans are waiting for their next Ero manga. Seiichiro mentions that he's just toning a sketch as part of his part-time job. The friend notices his gloomy expression and asks what's wrong. Blue mood or blue panels? Either way, not safe for work. Suddenly, it dawns on Seiichiro. He calls the man Asagi and asks if he can rent one of his rooms, since it's spacious and quiet. He explains the room needs to accommodate 2 people, but assures him it's nothing awkward. Asagi teases that even without romantic intentions, a cramped room could lead to unintentional closeness. Seiichiro frantically denies it. When Asagi frowns, Seiichiro reveals that he recently met a girl and offered to help her with a personal issue. At first, they stayed at a manga cafe, but due to a misunderstanding, he accidentally pinned her down and scared her. Now he needs a more suitable space. Asagi listens with interest and asks why he's so troubled if it was just an accident. Seiichiro sighs and finally admits that he's attracted to her. She's exactly his type. Asagi immediately guesses she must be taller than him, probably a model. Tall, mysterious, and a little scary. Check, check, check. A distressed Seiichiro says that when he saw the fear in her eyes, he froze. He doesn't want her to know he's romantically interested. He even wishes he could be reborn as a plant, just to escape such thoughts. Asagi feels genuinely sorry for him. Petition to reincarnate as a cactus. Low emotion, max defense. Asagi tells him that being thoughtful already matters a lot. No one can truly know what others feel, so actions speak louder than worry. He adds that overthinking might only create more problems. Seiichiro understands and says he'll just act normal around her. Asagi then asks if he's the only one who can help. Seiichiro says honestly that he wouldn't mind if a woman helped her too, though deep down he wonders if someone else's praise might also affect Yachiru's powers. Finally, Asagi agrees to rent him the extra room. He also mentions that his sister lives with him. Seiichiro is surprised but grateful. He rushes to tell Yachiru the good news. Later, Yachiru timidly meets Asagi and his sister, Ayame. She shyly presents them with a host gift, which they accept with thanks. Traditional gift etiquette, 10/10, sudden height growth, still pending. Ayame assumes Yachiru is a first-year college student and met Seiichiro at school. Yachiru clarifies that she is 18 and already working. Next, she clarifies that she met Seiichiro on the street when he helped her while she wasn't feeling well. Seiichiro is pleasantly surprised by how smoothly she handles the explanation. No mention of any chaos. Asagi leans over and whispers that Seiichiro's taste hasn't changed since elementary school. Seiichiro frantically tries to stop him, but Asagi keeps teasing him with embarrassing stories. Eventually, Seiichiro covers his mouth to shut him up, while Asagi laughs and mocks his panicked reaction. Yachiru watches their playful exchange in awe, surprised by how close the two are. She shyly confirms the room rental with Asagi, who assures her it's all settled and invites her to lunch. When she agrees, he suggests takeout, only for Ayame to scold him for filling the fridge but never cooking, and reminds him they have a guest. Tension rises as Asagi and Seiichiro argue over who avoids kitchen duty more. Yachiru, feeling awkward, offers to help with housework to show her gratitude. Not long after, she prepares an impressive and delicious meal, hoping everyone enjoys it. After lunch, Ayame returns to her room to work, while Yachiru neatly packs the leftovers, labeling them with expiration dates. Asagi is impressed by her thoughtfulness. Suddenly, Yachiru calls out to Seiichiro. Startled, he panics, and she wonders if something is bothering him. He quickly denies it, though inside, he struggles with his feelings for her. He tries to calm himself by thinking of something else. Out of the blue, Asagi praises Yachiru's cooking immaturity, saying someone so skilled deserves to be paid. The praise triggers a transformation. Yachiru suddenly grows, hitting her head on the ceiling. Seiichiro rushes to shield her, embarrassed and worried. Asagi, amused, comments that it's lucky the ceiling is high. Seiichiro whispers to the distressed Yachiru that he'll handle the explanation. Asagi takes it surprisingly well, remarking that in such a big world, the existence of yokai doesn't seem impossible. Yachiru is relieved by his reaction. Seiichiro agrees, noting Asagi's calm attitude. Yachiru points out that she can grow even when others praise her, not just him. After a short pause, Seiichiro smiles and agrees with her. He feels reassured knowing Asagi is now in on the secret, which makes sharing the space easier. As he reflects, a thought crosses his mind. If they can find another woman to support Yachiru, maybe she won't have to rely on him alone. He might as well start advertising, now hiring. Compliment specialists must be fluent in praise and snacks. While doing the dishes, his face beams incessantly. And then Yachiru comes along. She anxiously urges him to leave the dishes to her, but he refuses and mentions that let him finish, and then they will check out the room. He is thankful to her for the amazing lunch she had prepared, since Asagi and he always get so indulged in their work that they forget about it. It appears that Asagi had quickly returned to his room to work, probably to avoid another mystery growth spurt. She watches him with great dilemma, and then reveals that he is the only one who has praised her in this regard. When he stares at her inquisitively, she reveals with a sad smile that she has always been belittled about her housework so that she doesn't become arrogant. He feels terrible for her, but she blushingly expresses that maybe now it is okay to swag a little since he is always praising her for the smallest things. She admits that now she dares to try things out. If confidence were a recipe, she just found the secret ingredient: unexpected compliments. She believes that maybe it's a trivial thing for him, but still, he must know. He remarks that he is truly glad to hear that, and encourages her to share her thoughts whenever she wants. An astonished Yachiru wonders whether she can share anything with him, and he readily affirms. Quite hesitantly, she expresses her desire that he should praise her cooking a bit more. Warning: one more compliment and the ceiling may file a noise complaint. She stares at him passionately, and then quickly regrets it. Hysterically, she tries to flee from the spot, apologizing for being selfish and admitting that she got carried away since he is always praising her. To her surprise, he calmly assures her that he likes it when she is selfish towards him. He gazes blankly down the sink, while Yachiru questions him in sheer confusion. He's just trying to avoid eye contact with the dish sponge. It's seen too much, but he shrugs it off and compliments her superb cooking again. She expresses her gratitude and delight, but then realizes that he is probably saying that just to make her happy. He insists that if she gives him some time, he can send her an extensive review of a 1,000-word per dish by the next morning. She frantically restrains him from doing so, because nothing says romance like a professional formatted food review on fried eggs. When he chuckles in amusement, she stares at him, wondering about his immense joy and realizing that probably being selfish isn't so bad after all. In the end, all she needed was a little praise, a ponytail, and maybe fewer ceiling cracks. The scene shifts to Yachiru using the rented room for her intended purpose. Seiichiro decides to jot down the conclusions drawn up until now. First of all, praising makes her grow, regardless of who is praising her. However, throwing pointless nerdy facts at her is ineffective. Honestly, half of Wikipedia just cried a little. He has observed that if she becomes conscious of her praises, then she ends up suppressing the effects. From behind the shower curtain, a yachiru calls out to him that she has shrunk back. He calculates the time and claims that she lasted 5 minutes and 3 seconds. An excited Seiichiro was already aware that she would last more than a couple of seconds this time. World record for magical growth spurts, still unofficial. He guesses that her powers are gradually being revived. Next, she mentions the text containing a food review that he sent last night. She states that she was overwhelmed by the flood of words and wondered whether he ever ran out of compliments. However, she was delighted to be praised so generously. Compliment inflation is real, folks. Soon she'll be taller than the building. Suddenly, she went through a massive growth spurt, and her head hit the ceiling. At present, she concludes that the text alone is enough for such an abnormal growth. He thoughtfully suggests trying something. As she eagerly urges him to do so, she is astonished to see his face completely red. Diagnosis: praise-induced blushing. Fatal only to pride. Instantly, his temperature is taken, and Asagi guesses that he might have caught a cold. He suggests calling it a day, while a sick Seiichiro lies on the couch, thinking about the reason that made him ill. Asagi reasons that last night it was really chilly, and that could be the reason for Seiichiro's illness. Seiichiro cannot reveal that since he got lost in Yachiru's thoughts after getting out of the shower, he might have caught a cold at that time. Turns out daydreaming is a dangerous winter sport. Immediately, Asagi offers to drag him home first and then get medicine from the pharmacy. He even invites Yachikuru to come along. But Seiichiro refuses and states that he will get home by train. He suddenly bows in front of her in regret for not taking care of himself. Moral of the story: showers don't cure crushes. He assures her that he will call her once he feels better. Later, while he is lying drenched in fever, the doorbell rings, and he assumes that it is Asagi who had earlier texted him about leaving food at his doorstep. He opens the door without looking and blurts out that he is slightly under the weather. To his immense astonishment, Yachiru is standing outside the door asking about his well-being. Plot twist: it's not Uber Eats, it's Uber emotionally attached. Now the poor lad was expecting Asagi, but Yachiru reveals that he had asked her to check on him and is surprised that he hasn't been informed. Seiichiro secretly condemns Asagi for tricking him. She is concerned about his pale demeanor and urges him to go to bed. Next, she pulls out an apron and explains that Asagi has instructed her to cook something nutritious for him. Asagi, the true puppet master of love and soup. When she asks for his permission to use his kitchen, at first he is taken aback, but then quickly refuses. He instantly tries to grab the groceries from her hand and offers to pay for them. But like a bolt of lightning, Yachiru dodges and refuses to hand him the stuff. As Seiichiro weakly tries to protest, Yachiru firmly asks what he ate that day. He nearly chokes trying to say vegetables, but ends up blurting out ice cream. Embarrassed, he claims it's just a mild cold that will pass on its own. Frustrated, Yachiru yells that he's clearly too sick to think straight and storms into his apartment despite his warning that she might catch his cold. She declares that Hachishika-kusama never gets sick. Later, she brings him a hot dish and asks if he can eat. When he nods, she quickly serves him, and he thanks her. Confused by how happy he feels, he realizes it's because someone actually cares. She holds up a spoon, warning that it's hot. Shocked, he freezes, and she assumes the food burned him. She blows on the spoon to cool it, but Seiichiro, flustered, says he can feed himself. Thinking she learned it from a manga, he insists he's not a child. She looks puzzled but lets him take over. He thanks her again and quickly eats several spoonfuls, which relieves her. Overwhelmed by how good the food tastes, he starts praising it non-stop. She eventually begs him to stop talking so much. After finishing, she returns to the kitchen. Later, she finds him peacefully asleep after taking his medicine. Quietly, she prepares and stores extra food for him while he rests. As she's about to leave, he wakes up, color returning to his cheeks. She tells him about the food she made, and he asks if she's already leaving. Seiichiro grabs his head in frustration, insisting he was just sleep-talking and urges Yachiru to go home immediately. Shaken but calm, she thinks that at least he looks well-rested. He apologizes for making her care for a grown man, while she also apologizes for being too harsh, knowing he was just concerned. They're both sorry, though Seiichiro isn't sure what that means for their feelings. Yachiru admits she was unsure about coming at first, but his well-being became more important. She offers to stay longer if he needs anything. Out of nowhere, he feels the urge to open up. She looks confused, so he explains that being stuck in bed makes him talkative. She gets lost staring at his sleepy face, and when he teases her about her expression, she quickly looks away, searching for a topic. Spotting his bookshelf, she guesses that his habit of complimenting others comes from reading so much. He laughs and says it's true, he built a large vocabulary from reading. He shares that he used to be sick a lot as a child, and since his parents were busy, he often had to take care of himself. In 3rd grade, he was home alone most days, and even learned to cook simple meals like noodles. Though a small thing, he felt proud, especially since his friends weren't even allowed in the kitchen. Feeling embarrassed for sharing, he jokes that he must still be feverish, but Yachiru tells him his story is impressive. He nervously says maybe he deserves a little childish praise, and she gently assures him he's not alone anymore, she's here now. As she says this, she also grows nervous. Suddenly, the cooling patch on his forehead falls off. She quickly gets up to replace it, while Seiichiro, unsure if he still has a fever, thinks maybe he should check his temperature again. She perches on his bedside, peels off the sheet, and places it on his forehead. As he shudders, she realizes that it must be very cold. Congratulations, he's now officially a human popsicle. She gently pats it, making sure that it sticks well this time. While touching his forehead, their gazes meet. She beamingly rubs his forehead, but he shyly looks away in another direction. She exclaims that he has almost recovered from the nasty cold. Healing rate, 10% medicine, 90% forehead rubs. He agitatedly tells her to stop, but she insists that she will rub it a little more. As she strokes his hair affectionately, he blushes hard, admitting that it doesn't feel bad though. Debatable, somewhere his dignity is filing a complaint. But after a while he becomes frustrated and screams, signaling her to stop. He instantly hides himself under the covers, leaving her startled. After some awkward silence, he complains that she was having a bit too much fun. Nurse Yachiru, certified in sass and soup. She sheepishly chuckles and admits that she couldn't stop herself for some reason. He stares at her with a flushed face, while she stares at him wide-eyed. Something is cooking between the two, and it's definitely not soup. Finally, she decides to leave and hopes he gets better soon. Outside, it is still bright, although it is already 5 in the evening. Yachiru is covered with sweat since it is summer, but she wishes she could look at Seiichiro's face again. Suddenly, the sunshade slips from her hand and drops on the ground. A horrific feeling dawns on her that she has been having indecent thoughts about him. Oops, the cute rom-com turned into an X-rated affair. Meanwhile, an embarrassed Seiichiro is relieved that his head is not throbbing after he is left alone. A terrified Seiichiro yells in panic as a giant-sized Yachiru grabs his arms from behind, saying she's helping him feel better. He insists he's fine and is shocked by her sudden transformation. She runs a finger across his flushed cheek, teasing that she won't let him escape. Despite his struggle, her grip stays firm. She pats his head with her large hand and playfully says all his efforts are pointless, but promises to take good care of him. Embarrassed, Seiichiro turns red as she gently holds him close. Suddenly, a phone alarm rings, and the scene cuts to a sleepy Yachiru hugging her pillow in bed. Realizing it was just a dream, her eyes widen in shock. She rushes to splash cold water on her face, trying to erase the memory. Still shaken, she wonders if she might misuse her powers someday and questions why anyone would get close to someone like her. Drenched and flustered, she searches for a towel and the courage to face Seiichiro. Looking at her reflection, she reminds herself how kind and respectful he is and how she doesn't want to disappoint him with such thoughts. She instantly slaps her face wildly, trying to ward off all the weird thoughts. Face slapping. Not just for drama queens anymore. She vows that she will never look at him lewdly ever again. Later, a bright and cheery Seiichiro shows up at Asagi's place. Yachiru forces herself to appear normal and inquires about his well-being. He replies, "Yes, thanks to you." Meanwhile, her brain is doing somersaults like it's in the Olympics. He apologizes to her for acting childishly back then. To her surprise, Seiichiro turns away, avoiding her gaze. Suddenly, Asagi appears between them, teasingly thanking Yachiru for taking care of Seiichiro. Flustered, Yachiru tries to deny it, but Asagi just grins, calling her modest. Asagi, part-time chaos consultant, full-time mischief maker. Annoyed, Seiichiro whispers sarcastically that they need to talk. Asagi, pretending to be innocent, mimics that he knows Seiichiro wants to thank him for the wonderful surprise he gave him the day before. To hide his fury, Seiichiro chooses to chug down water in one go. Asagi warns him not to gulp down water so rapidly. Hydration, 10. Dignity, 0. Nevertheless, Seiichiro chokes and begins to cough incessantly, to Yachiro's concern. He goes through a long spell and excuses himself. Something about him strikes Yachiru again, and she slaps herself wildly to restrain herself from thinking dirty. However, both the boys panic on seeing such an insane sight. Embarrassingly, she lowers her head, explaining that an insect landed on her. Seiichiro finds it hard to believe because that doesn't explain slapping both cheeks. She nervously giggles and exclaims that she was probably imagining things. Soon the duo sets out to work, and he instructs her to change clothes while he waits by the door. Clothes changing, the ultimate test of speed and stealth. She opens the bag and panic-strickenly realizes that she forgot her hoodie. Now he cannot lend her his because of an obvious size change. She knows that it all happened because of the morning rush. She points at the curtains so she can take off her clothes. Curtains, now doubling as portable changing rooms since forever. He assures her that she doesn't have to go through all that since it is not an emergency. His thoughtfulness makes her feel even more overwhelmed. Then he takes out a small packet from his bag and tells her she won't have to risk damaging her clothes today. Inside are a pair of earplugs. Once Yachiru puts them in, she realizes she can't hear anything at all. She hides behind the curtains as instructed and wonders what she's supposed to do while waiting for his signal. Earplugs. Perfect for blocking noise and also, apparently, plot development. Next, she can see his lips moving as if trying to say something, but she cannot hear him. Judging from his expressions, he seems quite enthusiastic. He appears quite cute to her, moving his hands so excitedly. Out of the blue, a giggle slips from her lips. Sign language. The silent flirt game nobody talks about. She tries to stay focused when he signals her to take off the plugs. He asks her whether she heard anything he said since he had seen her chuckle. She nervously denies and expresses her curiosity about this whole thing. He explains that he has been praising her a lot, but as expected, she remains unaffected. Praising someone with earplugs is like complimenting a cat, totally ignored. She gulps in amazement upon realizing his intention. He emphasizes that for her to grow, she needs to hear the praise. She is baffled because that was quite obvious. He explains his theory that if she wants to regain her powers, maybe all that matters is how she perceives other people's words. Science, but make it emotionally confusing. When Yachiru still looks confused, Seiichiro gently explains that when they first met, she briefly grew after he unknowingly praised Hachishekusa. He thought at the time that a yokai's form might change based on how people perceive them, so maybe his belief had influenced her. However, he admits it's more complicated than that, and the theory might be wrong. He brings up Asagi, who isn't into yokai at all, but when he praised Yachiru's cooking, she still grew. So he jokes that the real lesson is, always compliment the chef, or risk being crushed by a happy yokai. He pulls out a chart he's been keeping and marks a new point. He asks her to focus on the highlighted sections and points out a pattern. She only grows when praise genuinely makes her happy. He thanks Asagi for helping prove that belief in yokai isn't what matters. Finally, he refers to an entry where he had written a full review of her cooking. While he's still unsure if yokai belief plays any role at all, he doubts that his faith in Hachishekusa has any real impact. Either way, she ended up growing up before she was finished reading it. To conclude, praise only makes Yachiru grow once she acknowledges and appreciates it. He highlights that day's case in which she was given earplugs to wear. He insists that he praised her heartily, but it was all useless since she wasn't able to hear it. He assures him that his current speech was full of faith and energy that would have initiated an instant growth. She's essentially a praise-powered Pokemon. She notes that without sincere praise, things would have ended like Case 2, where she brushed it off half-heartedly. To Seiichiro, she looks like a tiny kitten wrapped in curtain-like swaddling. She tries to ask whether growing despite being weakened by others' perceptions means she's ignoring them, but he has no idea how to answer. Science level, shrug emoji. This is because there lies a wave of uncertainty whether her powers are actually influenced by people's perception of her yokai folklore. When she seems puzzled, he clarifies that he is curious about the possibility. She answers that in the yokai world, it is considered natural. An animated Seiichiro expresses his interest in learning more about her world. Yokai 101. now available as an elective at your local university. However, she apologetically maintains its confidentiality. He is slightly disappointed by its mysterious factor, but Yachiro is lost deeply in her thoughts and then requests him to delve into this hypothesis, as she would like to have some evidence. She believes that if it truly depends on her perception, then their investigation will be easily sorted. As she watches him thinking hard, an excited smile appears on her face, thinking that no one would go to such lengths for her, and she secretly thanks him. Nothing says love like co-authoring a paranormal research paper. She is even thankful that he has spared her from thinking about a lot of trivia. She decides to thank him properly, but then spots a mole on his neck that ignites her emotions again. Suddenly, he offers her a seat, considering that she wanted to talk about something. She jumps in fright and nervously affirms, "Neck moles, the real villain of self-control." She swiftly settles down, wondering what to do next. He casually mentions that he has no idea about that, but she assures him that she will think about it as well. He advises her to stay in her growth state longer, saying practice will help. She suggests trying it now, but he reminds her about the forgotten hoodie, so they can try next time. If clothes make the yokai, then laundry makes the legend. She nervously agrees. As they call it a day and head towards home, an upset Yachiro keeps on thinking about the slip-ups she made that day. She regretfully realizes that at least she should have come up with an idea for their next research step. She keeps running the horses about how her perception affected the manifestation of her powers, but then instantly gets distracted by that killer mole on his neck. "No, Yachiro, you should hold your horses instead." She tries to shake her head here and there to shrug off those questionable thoughts again. She wonders how she would feel if he gave her the taste of her own medicine and saw her with lustful eyes. Suddenly, her face glows as an idea strikes her mind.